Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week, and with it, another exciting round of racing in the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by the sim racing hardware manufacturer CONSPIT. It is time for week number 6 of the 2025 Season 4 official series campaign. And we have made our way to the United States of America for the rollercoaster ride of road racing that is the ultimate adrenaline-fueled surge over 2.54 miles of tarmac. It is none other the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, located in the US state of Georgia near the town of Brazelton. This is a circuit that will keep you guessing all the way through to the very end as to who is going to be the winner and who the losers will be. With 12 corners interspersed over its tarmac that's absolutely packed full of elevation changes, this is a circuit not for the faint-hearted, whether you are a driver or a competitor, and one small mistake could be the difference between victory and ending up in retirement. But for our drivers today, it's going to be one where it's 19 laps from start to finish, where they're not going to take the foot off the throttle at any point, and they'll be holding their breath, looking to try and go for the ultimate goal, which is glory on the very top step of this top split broadcast. For us, we welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side. You're tuning into your regular Wednesday 1945 at Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time at UTC at top split broadcast here. Well, you're tuning in on YouTube at the moment at youtube.com and search for TX11 TX All 30 Paul Walsh, and we do say hello to a good number of you guys and girls there, including none other than Fabian, who says he's a first time as only a watcher this season, and I do believe that might be Fabian Ming, who's normally on the grid, but today he is spectating. Indeed, we have an absolutely stacked strength of field here. We'll come to that more shortly, but I hope you're doing well, Fabian, and to all you guys and girls tuning at home, I hope you're all doing well and excited for what's to come. Speaking of what's to come, well, qualifying's currently underway. And in approximately what will be about 6 minutes' time, if not that, in perhaps 4 minutes' time, we'll make our way to the grid for our race at what will be 5 minutes to 8 this evening. But as we look into this round, let's give you a quick recap of what's happened so far and what's still lying in wait. Because we come to the end of the first half of our season schedule. Last time out, week number 5, we were in Spain at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, and there in Spain, well, it was a little bit more straightforward if your name was Gunnar Testellen, who took pole position by a tenth of a second and led every lap after early pressure from Philip Hammer. Hammer was missed the second place for a smooth drive, and Gareth Higgins was not quite on the pace of the top two, but he was the man who to finish in third, clear of the rest of the field. But the rest of the field was full of battle in action, and will we see more of the same today, or will we see a slightly different complexion? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. And after today, of course, we make our way to the second half of the season with a visit to Italy at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, and that will be brought to you as a top split broadcast on Wednesday, the 29th of October. But talking about our host circuit for today, it's the full course of the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta, and the whole county circuit here in the US state of Georgia is one that is absolutely iconic. The only problem is, a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the track maps that come with it. A track map, two-dimensional, does not capture all those elevation changes, so we won't dwell on it for too long, but what you can see here is 12 corners and an absolutely huge back straight, but all these corners are sweepers, and therefore it's all about carrying momentum from corner to corner, and there's only 2 low-speed corners at turns 10A and 10B, a chicane introduced in order to slow the approach speeds all the way from turn 7 up towards turn number 11. It never used to be there, but it was introduced for safety concerns in the highest speed disciplines, of which our Porsche Cup cars fit into that category. As we set to go racing, well, a quick reminder of the rules. This is an open setup series with setups brought to each and every week of racing by our drivers. The grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing and come towards a close. The race commencing by a standing start, as it's an edition of the iRacing official Porsche Cup series, and we'll see drivers receive a drive-through penalty if they get to 17 or more instant points, push it to 25, and they will be disqualified. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, so let's make our way back to circuit side, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, well, we've got several drivers barreling their way around there at the moment, including none other than Vicente Aparicio, who we've seen race in GTEs in the past, and we are now seeing him race in the Porsche Cup car once again, and we look forward to seeing what he can do as he'll be starting fourth at the highest there with a personal best of a 19.667 right at the end of the session. Most of the drivers have completed their qualifying laps that are available to them, of which they only have their outlap plus 2, and well, the only driver who's not done any laps so far is Chris Wilkinson, and well, we do see the update there at the bottom of the screen, which is that qualifying will conclude in approximately 1 minute 30. That's a new introduction to the UI, the new iRacing UI there, giving us some information to say that unless we get any activity on circuit for drivers who have yet to set qualifying laps, we will see qualifying end a little bit early. But we've got plenty of fresh faces here, and perhaps the one driver who unfortunately is not in the car at the moment, he's in the pit lane, so we can't quite show him. But he's here today, and he's looking to give it his all. Well, it is none other than, I believe, if not the highest I-rated driver on the service, then one of the highest, standing at just over 13,000 I-rating. Well, he's currently your provisional pole sitter. It's Aaron Vasquez, 1 minute 19.445, half a tenth faster than Vitor Cruels, and we're incredibly close between those two drivers there, with then Luis Glanier and Vicente Aparicio line up on that second row of the grid, as we do look to Julian Osmani here, as he makes his way around in the number 19 machine. But we can see an absolute range of I ratings there. But the key point being for our drivers as they get themselves set is the fact that this is one of our highest ever splits for a top split broadcast at 5,158 I rating. So it's right up there with some of the best. We have had slightly higher earlier on this season. In week number 2, we did have 5,225. And of course, in 2025 season 3, our open at the Spa Frankensteins all the way back then did see a higher strength field in the broadcast history so far of 5,644. And that race, of course, was won by the man who's currently on pole of Aaron Vasquez, head of Heidi, Noah Mamasi and Bernardo Faria. But will we see a different story today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to find out as we see our drivers make the way to the grid then for what will be their 19-lap attack of the circuit. So as they all make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up then for the Week 6 top split race of the 2025 Season 4 campaign of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. Here is Aaron Vasquez for Grid and Go, who lines up on pole position. The Spaniard being joined there, half a tenth down, by the Belgian driver of none other than Vitor Cruels. We then have on row number 2, it's going to be the combination there of Luis Glanier, and we'll see none other than Vicente Aparicio. Philip Hammer starts in 5th for pole promotion esports. Can he find a smooth way to move back into the podium places? If not, he will have none other than Nikolai Melder, who starts in 6th. For the Norwegian driver, it will then be Paul Jaffro, who starts 7th. He's back on the grid after a long hiatus, and he's just ahead of Gabriel Ivanov there, as the Bulgarian driver starts in 8th, 3 tenths behind. Then it's only half a tenth before you do get to Tom Brulin, who makes his debut from Switzerland, ahead of Gareth Higgins, who starts 10th today for Team 75 Bernard by Sim RC. Outside the top 10 on row number 6, it's going to be best the rest there for Davidas Lorionis, and this RB Motorsport driver will be followed up by the Hungarian of Marcel Morokos. Then we have in 13th place, that's going to be Nicolas Gomez, ahead of Kamil Karras, who makes his way back again for enemy number 1, ahead of Colin Denoyka and Julian Osmani. Within row number 9, going to Christian Carlson, who's back on the grid once more, ahead of Oleg Olenikov. Your top 20 is completed there by Jeremy Rogers in the United States of America on home territory today, ahead of Pole Sim Race's Carl McGuinness, who starts 20th. He's going to have a lot of work to do there in the number 18 car. And on the final row of the grid to make our 22 starters, it's going to be Lukas Krozuk and Chris Wilkinson, with no lap set for either driver there. Well, they're going to have to do it the hard way from the very back of the field. But that is how they're all going to line up, ladies and gentlemen. We are only moments away from going green flag race, and only 20 seconds before those lights come on. And at the very front of the field, there is Aaron Vasquez. And well, it's a short run towards turn number 1 once you get going, but it'll feel like an eternity to get there, particularly if he doesn't get a good start. But can he nail it at the launch, or will he find himself under pressure? It's time to find out, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the race. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. Firing lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for Porsche Cup racing here at Road Atlanta. Vasquez gets a good start, and immediate Cruels tucks the inside in, looking for a move. Vasquez covers him off. It's going to be now up the hill they go, and as they roar the way up, well, Cruels tries to go up the inside, but Vasquez holds the middle of the road there, gives space to his rival, but not too much to give him encouragement. And up the hill they roar, as we see Melder there battling with Joffro, with Hammer just in front. But over the hill they go, and immediately now everyone line astern as they come down the hill, albeit in the mid-pack. It's 2 by 2 as they romp and roll their way on down, and Nicolas Gomez there just falling behind Mokos and Lorionis, and it does seem as though everyone is safely through the opening corners, through the SS sequence, which don't hold corner numbers. They're not counted as actual number corners, but Kamil Karras therefore slightly out wide by Julian Osmani, and that's going to enable Christian Carlson to get on the inside of him as they head into the 90 rights to turn 6 and 7, and this is where we're going to see the field potentially spread nice and early, albeit that's a move there from Denoyka, who moves up into 14th place ahead of Osmani, and well, Carlson and Karras, they exchange side-by-side glances once again, and Kamil Karras gets the place back that he only just lost, or does he get it back here? So that's going to be a drag race down the back straight, but we can see how this fighting has caused 14th and downwards to separate from the top pack. But the top pack, Aaron Vasquez now starting to put a bit of stability right at the front, although Cruels will be looking for the move. He's not quite close enough to go for it, and everyone else plays it safe. Meanwhile, Morcos, he looks at the inside of Lorionis, but that's not going to work out as they come down through the corner. And meanwhile, that's going to be Karras and Carlson still too wide as they come out the chicane. These two continue to fight each other, and Karras back on the attack here. Well, right now, I can tell you one thing, we might have some of the highest I-rated drivers at the front of the field, but all the way through the field, they're giving it everything here. It means so much to them as Hammer looks to try and hold off Melda on the outside, but that's never going to work, and that causes Joffro to go up the inside. So Hammer there escorted wide through turn 1, being caught out slightly by Melda's lunge up the inside, and will that cost him 2 places for the price of 1 overtake. But good work there for Nikolai Melda, and well, right now the Norwegian driver making some great progress as he roars his way now in towards turn 5. But heading over the rise, Gabriel Ivanov, he's now on the back of Hammer here, and we ride on board with the 8th place driver. And his target at this point will be to look for a potential move. But Hammer is not easy to budge in the fact that he does drive a very solid race, Hammer. We do know the fact he's one of the most consistent drivers out there. He may not be the fastest, but over a race distance, you'll be very hard-pressed to find a driver who cannot deliver laps within the 10th for each other time and time again when he needs it most. And that's why Hammer is widely regarded as such as one of the very best here in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT as they come charging down the back straight. But these drivers right now all tuck into the formation again. Nobody wants to fall out, because otherwise they'll start to separate the field. This really feels like it's the Tour de France, but in Porsche Cup cars at Road Atlanta, because everyone wants to try and stay in the tow of Vasquez right at the front of the field, and nobody wants to break up the pack. Meanwhile, Jeremy Rogers here, well, he's definitely right now trying to hold on to 18th place, with Carl McGuinness trying to make some progress, as is Oleg Olenikov, and also Lucas Krasuk and Chris Wilkinson. And this is the backpack, but to be fair for these drivers, they do have some of the lower I ratings, and to them, this will feel like a win, whoever finishes at the head of this 5-car group. But Cameron Karras and Christian Carlson continue to fight each other as the lap times continue to tumble, and they make the way onto lap number 3. But up the hill they go, and Karras not close enough versus Carlson as they head into the blind braking zone. Wilkinson meanwhile gets ahead of Krasuk, who rejoins. Now, was there a bit of escorting up the road there? I'm not quite sure, but move made, and it's a yellow flag there for Krasuk, who is going to have to give back the time he's theoretically gained by cutting the corner from turn 1 in towards turn number 3. He'll feel as though he hasn't gained any time, he's lost it, but the iRacing shooting system says he needs to give the time back, and so he does, being absolutely obedient to the rules, and we'll head on through. He's back to fair racing once again. But as we look to the front of the field, well, right now Aaron Vasquez still holding on, but your top 3 is starting to pull away a little bit now as they bolt their way all the way down towards what will be turn number 10 and heading towards the braking zone at the moment. These drivers absolutely on a mission as we say hello to Zach Hitt and also Pedro Fernandez Olmedo in the YouTube chat. It's great to see so many of you tuned in. I hope you're all doing well, gentlemen and ladies out there, of course. We can't differentiate too much on gender, but right now no differentiation there because Marcel Mocoz goes at the inside of Davidas Lavionis and makes a lovely move for 11th place. But the problem is that's going to now force them back towards Gomez. The Brazilian driver here looks up the inside, just gets chopped on the nose there, coming through turn number 12, and right now it's to back off a little bit, but Gomez really wants this as the two in front continue to fight. Heading towards turn number 1, then he'll back off this time. He'll look for a potential cutback, he'll look for an opening, he'll look for something that gives him a chance to get involved, but he gets a bit too close there, taps the rear. Olonis immediately backs off, doesn't lock up the brakes, makes sure to lift off the throttle and squeeze the brakes slightly, starts his braking point for turn number 3 nice and early, and that prevents all 3 drivers end up in a bit of a contact. But as they head through the S's, well, that shows you Gomez, he's very eager to make this move, but he's got to temper that enthusiasm slightly with a little bit of patience, and if he does so, it will come to him. He's got to believe that, but right now, temper is such a thing, given the fact that over the distance, these drivers will absolutely push each other all the way and then some. Dunweka's also closing up to the back of this battle with Osmani and Carlson almost there. Carl McGuinness, meanwhile, he may have had a difficult qualifying session, has been commented on by a good number of his friends for pole racing in the YouTube chat, but right now he's trying to make amends chasing after Olenikov, albeit Jeremy Rogers is starting to bolt away from these guys, and Wilkinson and Krosuk are being left in their tail. But back towards the front of the field, and we can see here that right now Aparicio is really forming the second pack. That's 4th all the way through to 10th place with Gareth Higgins at the back of it and Aparicio at the very front of it. And well, I can tell you one thing, where he races in a GTE or alternatively in a Porsche Cup car, right now this man is absolutely flying in 4th place in the number 5 car, so he's exactly where he wants to be, if not a little bit ahead of the curve. And right now Joffro is right there behind him thinking, well, what can I do? But the Frenchman's got to get inventive versus the Spaniard, because if I remember Aparicio correctly, when he has to go defensive, he is very different in the way he defends. He normally picks a bit more inconvenient lines, and he normally experiments with some defensive lines that others wouldn't dare to dream to do so, and he's not afraid to go too wide for the tightest sections of the circuit. And well, we get to see a too wide all the way through the S's, but I wouldn't put it past, that's on our bingo card at some point over the course of the racing. But as all the drivers head onwards, well, let's take a look back at some of the moments earlier on in the race, including what went wrong for Philip Hammer on the opening lap. Now, this was Hammer coming towards the end of the opening lap. Where did he go wrong exactly? Through turn 11 into 12. Did he just run slightly wide here? Yes, he did. That run wide gave a bit of confidence there to Melder behind, who looked up the inside. And while Melder was on the inside there in towards turn number 1. No contact, but Hammer with dirt on his tyres on that outside line. No grip available. And suddenly Paul Jeffro snuck his way up the inside as well. So a 2-for-1 special there. A small mistake from Hammer. We then had this, meanwhile, a lap later for Marcel Marcoz as he came down from turn 11 into 12. I think this is going to be a very similar mistake here, a very short mistake as well. Just carries too much speed and takes the grass there and takes some yard trimmings up towards turn number 1. We had also what was this for Oleg Alenikov, and this was on lap number 1. As he made his way over the rise, and as he did so, this was lap number 2 in fact there, I think it's been recorded incorrectly, as he makes his way through that corner where he went out very wide there, and that enabled an opportunity to arise for none other than what was Wilkinson at the time, but Lenikov then started to make his way back through the field, and then we had this on lap number 3 for Lukas Krauzuk, and this was into turn number 1. I think this was the rallycross moment for the man, as he made his way into the corner, came in a bit too hot, and then went straight onto the exit curve. The car rode the curb, and he was a passenger until he rejoined at turn number 3, but he took it easy and then rejoined as safely as he could. But with that, those are your moments in the opening 3 laps. Let's head back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, plenty more to come here, as we have had a bit of drama as he's rejoining. That's coming out to turn number 5. That is Colin Tanoika. The German driver there has had a huge shunt coming out of turn number 5. You can see it on the rear right quarter panel of the car from the driver's perspective. That's been sent around. It's been grazed either by a barrier or another car. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can. But at the time, he was running quite happily at was in the midst of the top 15, just towards the bottom end of the top 10, and now he's all the way down in 21st place. So he's going to want to try and find a way to recover that as quickly as he can. If he can't, well, in this race then, that could definitely be one that he's going to have to write off gradually over the distance. But never say never. You never give up until the finish line. That's what Carl McGuinness is trying to do here as he battles with Lenikov, but Lenikov covers the middle of the road and says to him, where are you going to go? And Carl there has to back off as they make the way on through, and, well, a little bit of controversy there on the side of Lenikov's car, saying with regards to pigeons are liars, and I do believe right now he's trying to seek the truth in that car. But much like a pigeon, he's looking to try and take flight here and chase after Jeremy Rogers. But will he be able to do so, or will his aspirations be as dead as a dodo? Give us your thoughts in the YouTube chat. Heading up that hill right now, Alenikov definitely in that number 20 car, trying to make amends for a difficult start. He's back up to 18th place, which is where he started. I think he suspects he's got a bit more and he can hunt down Rogers, and perhaps even Kamil Karras, who's fallen down the order in recent laps. We're back towards the front, and right now Aaron Vasquez for Grid and Go, still holding on quite comfortably. Here is the virtual coaching driver as he comes all the way out of turn number 7, and onto that back stretch he goes. 2 corners down this back straight, 2 curves, turns 8 and 9, but right now he's not too worried about the curves. All he's worried about is delivering a result. But Corrales and Glania are both staying right there with him as the second of the pole promotion esports drivers here, Hammer being the first, albeit he's a bit further back at the moment, and Glania, well, he's close, but is he close enough to really think about a move? And the answer is no. So what do you do at this point is the question you may be asking. Well, it all comes down to how hard he's having to drive to stay with the car in front. Now, if he's driving at 100% already, you've then got to give it a bit more. As we see a small mistake from Corrales, they're coming out of 11 into 12. Glania gets very close, looks up the inside here, and this is going to enable Vasquez to break away. But for Glania, this is a second place. Cuts back in, and Corrales immediately jumps on the back of him here. Brilliant swap of positions, and both drivers here, they both want to fight over this place, but they also want to make sure the lead man doesn't get away. So they're driving right on the limit, but they're also making sure when it does go wrong, they are not scattering each other's races. They're just swapping things around. They're not teammates. That goes to show you how much respect is between them, and they both are aligned in one bigger purpose, which is they both want the win. So therefore, if something goes wrong, if a place change is going to happen, they'll let it happen and then get back on with the focus, which is to chase Vasquez down. Towards the end of the race, when we get to the final couple of laps, we may see what is effectively the enemy of my enemy is my friend logic break down, and they will become enemies again. But right now, Glania and Corrales have settled their differences immediately, and it was just a small amount of oversteer coming over the crest of 11 that sent Corrales slightly sideways, and he carried that loss of speed into turn number 12, and that's how Glania got the move done. But he absolutely threw everything at that one, and well, right now 6 tenths is the gap to Vasquez, but can he bring it back? The one thing that Vasquez can do in return here, given you've seen him fighting, is he can back off a little bit and just do a bit of tyre saving, and it just gives him a bit more confidence going towards the end of the race. Because remember, as we come back to the second pack here, the fight from 4th all the way to 10th, the tyres on these Porsche Cup cars at full attack mode, they will last somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes depending on the circuit, but this is a high degradation circuit on the left hand side tyres. Again, we've got so many right handers here on the clockwise circuit, and this is why the circuit's a lot of load on those left side tyres. tyres. So you can imagine those tyres are only going to be good for the best part of about 15 minutes, and then suddenly they will stumble off the pace. So therefore you've got to do a bit of work to look after the tyres, or you may find yourself losing pace towards the very end of the race distance. It's a tough thing to do, but that's why these drivers are regarded as some of the best in the world, because of the fact they know exactly how to make these tyres work to their advantage. As meanwhile, Oleg Olenikov there taking a rallycross line, much like what we saw for Kazuk earlier on, and it's all gone a bit wrong there for the number 20 driver. He falls to 20th place, and he has got a yellow flag to serve as well, but he'll gradually try to curb that slow down penalty as he makes his way through the S's and onto the exit. We have had a change, meanwhile. Kamil Karras has got ahead of Christian Carlson. In fact, no, he's not got ahead of Carlson, my apologies. He's got ahead of Julian Osmani. He's up into 15th place, but how did that happen, and how did it go wrong for Olenikov? Well, here is a couple of replays, because we also had this, of course, for Colin Tenoika. And this sort of dropped all the way down the order. Now this was on lap number 6, through the SC came in the all-white machine, in towards turn 5, comes out the corner, bounces onto the exit curb, and bounces off it. Oh, goodness me! A big hit to the wall down the rear quarter panel. So that explains what happened coming out of turn number 5, but he slid a long way down the road. That's why you'd be easily forgiven for thinking he was in contact as he came out of 5, not bounced into the barrier, but that was too much speed, hit the gravel on the bounce, and that upset the rear of the car and sent him spinning around. But we got it back together in the end, and we had this 3 laps later for Olenikov. This was battling with none other at the time than what was, I do believe, Carl McGuinness, but McGuinness was right behind, watching and waiting, head up the hill, and Olenikov mounted the exit curve there and became a passenger, much like we saw earlier on for Lukas Kralsuk, and, well, the same mistake being made by 2 different drivers. But with that, we also did see some change of the position. And well, we did have what was none other than, I believe, this from Kamil Karras on Julian Osmani. And well, this was on the same lap, albeit a bit later. It was coming out of turn number 5. Osmani ran wide there, and as he recovered the car before hitting the tyre barrier, he didn't hit it in the end. He lifted off the throttle. Well, Kamil Karras took the place off him as quickly as that. But as we come back to your live racing, we also say hello to team manager for Carl McGuinness' team of Aidan Pohl there, the team named after the man. I hope you're doing well, Aidan. And well, right now, at the front of the field, it is Aaron Vasquez, who heads towards the halfway point of this race, in control, in the lead, but is it going to stay that way over the distance? Because Glania right now is staying with him or thereabouts as they come roaring over the curb there. And what a lovely camera. That shows you the viciousness with which they attack these laps. And indeed, right now, you've got to ride those curves. You've got to use all the circuit. If you don't use every millimetre of this circuit, you will lose the lead of the race. And that's what Vasquez will have in mind here. He will have drilled this circuit into his mind until the point he can't get it wrong. What is it they say? An amateur practices until they can get it right. A perfectionist practices until they can't get it wrong. And Aaron Vasquez right now, an absolute perfectionist at the very front of the field. And in fact, he's just extended his gap through the opening sequence of corners now to 9/10 over Glania. He definitely seems to be starting to run away with the lead little by little. But as we do see this mid-pack inside the top 10, we're still Aparicio who holds on to the lead of this group with Paul Joffre for close company. And we'll ride on board here with the SRP machine. Right now, what is going to be the story? Well, the Frenchman behind, he wants to try and find an opportunity, and the lap times have been going against Aparicio on the last couple. Actually, he has gradually lost some pace. However, that can be forgiven. It can be the slipstream that makes up the difference with Joffre right there. And in fact, I think we're going to now see what's going to happen here, albeit Joffre gives him a little bit of a bump draft there and says to him, "No, Vicente, I want you to carry on. Don't fight me." So I think Joffre's worried about what's behind, and well, behind, that's why he's worried, because Ivanov and right now, what is there, Tom Brolin, they're fighting hard, as is Melda and Hammer. So therefore, with everybody going 2 by 2 in the pack behind, Aparicio and Joffre are trying to work together here, and you can see, look how that gap has already opened up. It's opened up to 1.5 seconds for a chicane of fighting, and well, Hammer's not quite done yet. He looks back to the inside here versus Melda, and Melda right now trying to do everything he can. Race, of course, in the Danish F4 Esports Championship earlier on this season, over the course of 2025, as brought to you by the DASU on the iRacing official channels. And right now for Nikolai Melda, changing their F4 machine all the way to a Porsche Cup car, and well, he's not wincing away from the responsibility of trying to beat the pole promotion esports driver. Ivanov did manage to find his way past Brolin, and also Higgins is still there with them as they all come out. They're all using all the tarmac and plenty more there. I think right now it's the case, if one driver goes wide, the next driver wants to go a couple more millimetres wide, albeit Hammer right and tight up the inside there. Into turn 6, he takes back 6th place, but it may not be for long as they drop the throttles coming out of turn number 7, and we jump on board here with a man at the back of this group who takes a bit of grass. And well, right now for Gareth Higgins, he's watching this, and I think he wants to push on, but I think Higgins, much like what we're talking about earlier with Glania and Corrales, I think Higgins is driving at 100% right now. I don't think he's got much more he can give at this point, and that's the problem, because he wants to stay with that pack in front, but I don't think he can quite push himself to do so. So he's praying a little bit that these guys fight each other hard. The only other thing he may be doing is trying to tyre save, but the body language of the car may suggest, in fact, he is struggling a little bit at the moment, and that's completely understandable because we are seeing everyone really push each other, and this is going to come down to mistakes towards the end. It will be minuscule mistakes. Whoever makes the tiniest of ones will be the one who potentially loses out. As meanwhile, we have had a change of position for 13th. Christian Carlson has found his way past Nicolas Gomez, and Gomez lost out towards the end of the lap, and this is how the move was made. So it was going through the chicane, and we'll see Carlson, the chasing car there, in red and black versus Gomez in the red and white livery. And we're through turn number 11. Gomez had a lot of power oversteer there on the exit of the chicane, and well, Carlson was able to tuck his way through, and Gomez playing the game, which is let's work together. There's no point me fighting to you. I've already lost the place. But speaking of places lost or gained, well, right now, Colin Denoika is trying to regain the place he lost after his moment at this corner at turn number 5. He still sports the wounds from his brush with the barrier, and Carl McGuinness is next on his firing line of targets to try and beat. But where would he go for the move? If he can get it, of course, McGuinness will be looking in his rear view mirror and thinking to himself, stop looking in the mirror, Kyle. You need to focus on the driving right now, because these apexes, they really will feel as though they're do or die coming down this back straight, as he does have a distant tar for Jeremy Rogers, who's 1.1 seconds up the road, but that's not going to give him any respite versus Denoika, who only 3 tenths behind will pick up at least double, if not triple, the effect of the slipstream by comparison. These Porsche Cup cars, as soon as you get within half a second, the slipstream effect builds massively, subject to how much rear wing you're running. And this circuit, Road Atlanta, typically identified as a high downforce circuit. Given the nature of the fast flying corners, you want to carry all the speed. On the back straight, yes, you can take a bit of rear wing off, but you run the risk of not being able to carry corner speed. So it is a double-edged sword there, the amount of rear wing you run. But as they head across that time, I suspect it's high downforce all the way here, and well, looking in towards turn number 1, McGuinness there defends the outside, but sweeps back to the apex. Denoika just trying to poke his nose in, doesn't quite find a move at the moment as they head over the rise, and this battle for 18th taking just as much precedence as the battle for the front. So meanwhile, behind, Lucas Krasuk up the inside there of Chris Wilkinson, retaken by Luxfing's 20th place through turn number 1, gets it done on the outside of 2, it's the inside of 3, lovely pass there for the number 15 driver, and makes his way ahead of Wilkinson with Oleg Olenikov, who after having a spin earlier on in the race is now trying to get himself right back into that hunt. But back to McGuinness versus Denoika for a brief moment, and well, through turn 6 and 7 they go. And the number 18 driver at this point, I think right now, are really just trying to hold on as long as he can, but it is so much easier said than done. A big slide there coming out of turn number 7 as well. He is dancing on all 4 wheels here, is McGuinness, and well, we're on his way down the back straight right now. Denoika, I think he's got the confidence here to think he can potentially bounce for a move, as in front, Rogers is now 1.5 seconds away. That slipstream, it is going to be gone, as that's Denoika looking up the inside. McGuinness there just pinches him slightly. There's a bit of contact between them, but in the end, Denoika does get to the inside. McGuinness does have to let it go, and unfortunately can't find it back to the inside of 10B, so Colin Denoika does take the place back. Mikhail McGuinness fought hard for it, but in the end Denoika just wanted it that little bit more. But from then we come back to the very front of the field, and at the front, on lap 15, we have this plus another 5 to go. Aaron Vasquez leads almost a second now. He's almost started to break the slipstream with Luis Galania and Vito Corrales. They are separated by 4.5 tenths here on average, and the pole position esports driver is trying to bolt away from the all-black machine, the number 17 of Corrales, where he can. However, it's much easier said than done, and right now, with the fact he's gradually losing the slipstream to the grid and go machine in front of him, I suspect at some point he is going to run out of straight line speed a little bit by comparison, and this gap is actually going to come down, come down even more. But of course, one thing he can try and do right now is just get a little bit closer to Vasquez. He'll have to push himself even more, or hope that Vasquez makes a mistake. But Vasquez has proven absolutely infallible so far. Jaffro looks the inside of Aparicio. Well, these two had worked together for 7 laps, and now Jaffro takes the place there of Aparicio, doesn't fight it too hard, and I would imagine that Vicente at this point in time is still the mindset, let's work together, and perhaps he prefers to be the chaser in this situation. Perhaps he's got the car set up to run in the dirty air, whereas others haven't. That can be one very valid way of setting up a car here at Road Atlanta. If you expect to be running the pack for a very long period of time, then get it set up to be behind a car that's cutting the air in front of you, and suddenly these corners are going to feel a breeze. The only downside, of course, is normally when you're in clear air, you'll have a bit of a disadvantage. You'll normally sacrifice some straight line speed for better corner rotation and more downforce, but we will see. Ooh, goodness me, that's a snap and a half from Aparicio. They're coming through turn number 4. It's a bit too eager with the throttle, and the rear tyres not settling down, and will the weight transfer as well, making that even more dramatic. And Aparicio there, if he hadn't got that under control, that would have gone spinning to the grass, and well, that is driving on the limit. But Jaffro, no such issue, but that's where the dirty air upsets the aero balance And these Porsche 92 Cup cars as well also do have the fact the fuel tank is in the front, and as the car gets lighter with regards to losing the fuel, it is the front that gets lighter, not the rear of the car. So the aero balance of the car suddenly shifts quite dramatically towards the rear, and it makes this car even more challenging to drive, because essentially you have a front end that goes from being quite heavy to suddenly feeling very light to the touch on corner entry. And we're heading on down at this point. It really is now back and forth battle, as it's going to be able to reach up the inside. Too wide they enter, too wide they exit, and Philip Hammer is right back there with them now as they head over the crest. Melda is a bit behind, and we do have Ivanov 1.8 seconds off here as they come charging on past us, and we're off into distance they go on to lap number 17. But it's a four-way fight now for fourth place here, and here comes that reach up the inside. He wants it even more, but as we can see there, they give each other space. Jafro all the way around the outside just holds on for now ahead of Jafro of Aparicio, I should say, with Hammer and Melda there. But this fighting is costing them time, and it means our leaders are pulling away. But all the way down the hill they go, and as they do, well, nobody right now wants to make a mistake, as Tom Brolin meanwhile holds on to ninth just behind Ivanov, and he's got the pressure of Higgins and Morokos right behind them. So we've got another four-pack, only 1.5 seconds off the fight for fourth. But the front of the field as well, we have had a closing of the gap at the very front. Vasquez has in fact fallen back to only within 3.5 tenths of Luis Glania. So Glania right now absolutely on a mission here to get nice and tight, nice and close. Could he potentially try and sneak this win away right towards the end? He's in the draft, and look at how much he's closing up here. Gap has gone from 3.5 tenths to 1.5 tenths by the braking zone. Here comes Glania looking up the inside, but not yet. He thinks about it, but I wonder whether that hesitation is going to cost him a little bit later on there, because he's revealed his hand. He thought about it, but decided not to. He's going to have 2 more laps of this, and Vasquez right now, well, the one thing is you never reveal your hand in a game of high stakes, high speed poker. And for Aaron Vasquez right now, he knows every trick in the book here, and he will have seen that and recognise the fact that Glania right now, he may throw a feint, he may not, and he may decide to position the car a little bit differently next time down that back straight in order to change the narrative. Meanwhile, in the fight for fourth, that side elbows out there through turn number 1, and that is Jafro sent to the grass there. I think it's an innocent touch, but it's a touch that has big consequences, because Aparicio takes fourth ahead of Hammer and Melda, and Jafro rejoins in 7th place. We're going to get a quick replay as to what exactly caused that to happen. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It was down towards turn number 1. Now, Jafro was on the race tonight. Aparicio to the inside, all in on the brakes, both drivers. And in the end, Aparicio goes a little bit deep there, just a tiny bit. I think he carried about 1 to 2 miles an hour, a bit too much speed there to be able to make the corner and give the space to Jafro, who was already in deep on the corner because of the battling. And that's when they made contact, completely innocent. And I can imagine that Aparicio might just simply say to Jafro after the race, look, I'm sorry, I know what happened there. And indeed, respect given and respect taken between the 2 drivers. But back to the front of the field then, and we can see Glania right now still there. Vasquez calls them to queue up at this point. He's playing the game now. Why do I need to fight them if I can get both of them to fight each other for me? As I head on to one final tour of the Road Atlanta circuit, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go then. 2.54 miles in the US state of Georgia. Who will be your winner? Will it be Vasquez, who's led every lap so far, or can Luis Glania or Vitor Corrales steal away the win? Who will be on that podium in the right order? Let's find out as they head their way over the hill. And right now, Glania's so close he could reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival, but not going to do so right now as they come down the hill into the S's, and this is where now tyre life is going to be at a premium. The fuel loads are going to be incredibly light. They will have absolutely measured these fuel loads to practically empty as they cross that finish line. They want no excess weight in the car whatsoever. We're going to stay with your lead battle all the way to the end, ladies and gentlemen, as Vasquez there goes to the inside, tries to break the toe for a brief moment. He knows that Glania is gaining every time they get onto a short stretch of tarmac. And now heading towards turn 6 and 7. Corrales close here. So tight on corner exit. So precious here. Glania 3.5 tenths back as they exit turn number 7. Now it's a long run down the straight. Vasquez weaves one way, then the other, and as he does so, it may give you motion sickness, but it's for a purpose here, and that is to prevent his rivals from gaining massively in the slipstream as they come down. And Vasquez right now, I think, may have just bought himself a bit of breathing room, but here they come, and it's going to be Glania looking one way, Vasquez in the middle of the road, and Corrales on the other side. Glania goes for it here, too wide for the chicane, they enter, too wide on exit, but Vasquez gets the better traction. Here comes Corrales, gets the inside, but for Aaron Vasquez, he's timed it absolutely spot on. He doesn't relinquish a single lap, and Aaron Vasquez takes victory here at Road Atlanta by 2 tenths over Luis Glania, who just fends off Vitor Corrales, who takes 3rd place in the fight for 4th, with it's a long line of cars, but Vicente Aparicio will just hold on. Oh my good lord, it goes around there. How does it all end? It ends in tears for some, but Aparicio takes 4th, albeit with a black flag. I think that's going to put him down the order. Paul Jafro takes 5th ahead of Philip Hammer. Nikolai Melda takes 7th ahead of Gabriel Ivanov. Tom Brolin's 9th. Gareth Higgins takes 10th place, and a dramatic conclusion conclusion to the race. There'll be Marcel Morocos, who takes 11th, ahead of Devidas Loriones, who cools himself down. Christian Carlson beats Nicolas Gomez to 13th, with Camel Karras taking 15th place. And then we do see Jeremy Rogers 16th, ahead of Julian Osmani. And we do have then Carl McGuinness 18th ahead of Oleg Olenikov, with Chris Wilkinson just ended off Lucas Krosuk for 20th place. And then Colin Denoika with an unfortunate retirement, 5 laps to the end. Well, he will be your 22nd and final finisher. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a conclusion. And as we take a look back at that race end, well, we take a look in particular to the fight for 4th. And as much as the battle for the lead was entertaining, well, how about this? Hammer versus Aparicio. It was side by side down into the chicane, 2 wide on entry, and Hammer tried to go around the outside. That didn't work, so in the end he looked for the switchback here, heading up the hill. Got the momentum over the crest, but then it was a swipe back one way. Aparicio put himself right in the middle of the road. Hammer tried to look to the inside, bounced off of the apex curve there. That sent Hammer round. That was where he took the curve too high. And in the end, Aparicio, well, there might have been a small last minute contact between them that may have sent him over the instant point limits. We'll have to see where he's classified as finishing. But that's why Hammer went around, and Joffre was able to sneak that 5th place finish right at the end there, but a dramatic conclusion. And as we make our way back to your live circuit side pictures, ladies and gentlemen, the circuit falls silent, and here are your race results, subject to any steward's inquiries. So after a brilliant 19 laps of racing here in the Week 6 Top Split broadcast of the 2025 Season 4 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT campaign, Aaron Vasquez, your grid and go pole sitter, was also the man who took victory by only 2 tenths in the end over Luis Glania, the privateer from Pole Promotion Esports, who managed to hold on to second. Vito Corrales, we did everything he can in order to try and take that second place and even the win, but in the end, Vasquez saw it coming and got Glania and Corrales to fight each other as he held on to the win. But only 7 tenths between the top 3. They had an incredible run, and then it was the best part of 11 seconds to the fight for 4th, which was contested by 7 drivers. But in the end, only one could take 4th place, and it was Paul Joffre there as classified. Aparicio may have taken it on the road, but the black flags he crossed the finish line for instant points means that he will have had time added to the end of the race, and well, unfortunately, it does mean for Vicente Aparicio, he has been demoted, I believe, all the way down, unless I'm mistaken, to a 21st place finish, which will be absolutely gutting given the hard work he put in. So Paul Joffre promoted to 4th there, ahead of Philip Hammer for Pole Promotion Esports, who finished the race more sideways than straight, but to be fair, he got to the finish line ahead of Nikolai Melder, with Gabriel Ivanov in 7th place, hold off Tom Brolin right at the end, and then Gareth Higgins had to settle for 9th for Team 75, burn off by SimRC. He didn't quite have the pace to take on the fight for 4th place, but he was there at the back of it all the way over the distance. It was a further 3 tenths back to Marcel Moros, who in the end did a brilliant job to close up towards the end of the Hungarian driver, just ahead of Devidas Loriones, and well, a stellar job from him to take best of the rest of the length for SRB Motorsport. He was just ahead of Christian Carlson at the close, with Nicolas Gomez in 13th ahead of Camel Karras, and Karras enjoyed some brilliant batting in the early stage of the race, but settled himself down and settled for 14th ahead of Jeremy Rogers, with the American on home soil round off your top 15, and then it was Julian Osmani ahead of Carl McGuinness of Pole Sim Racing, with Oleg Olenikov, Chris Wilkinson, and enemy number 1's Lucas Krosuk, who rounded off your top 20. Outside the top 20, unfortunately, with that post-race time penalty, Vicente Aparicio demoted all the way to 21st. That's going to be absolutely gutting for him. And we did see, of course, the unfortunate retirement, but classified as a finisher, as he did finish the race within 5 laps. Colin Denoika there, who had a difficult day at the office after that turn 5 incident and a further spin later on. So 22 starters, 22 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, of which 21 on the lead lap. And that concludes our racing here today at Road Atlanta, and what a race it has been. But just before we conclude this broadcast, of course, there's just time for a quick word about our title sponsor for the iRacing Porsche Cup, and that's none other than CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware.
If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to next time, because as we charge our way into the second half of the season, we head to Italy for week number 7, and we welcome you to come join us, whether it's on the grid or in the YouTube chat, on Wednesday the 29th of October 2025, as we make our way to the infamous Imola circuit on 9 in full as the Autodromo International Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. But until then, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit and Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.